Welcome to the show, everyone. I'm excited to have Christy Whitman back. Today, we're talking about her new book, The Flow Factor. Welcome back, Christy.
Thank you for having me, JJ. I'm so excited to talk to you about this because I know we are so right there on
Right
everything.
there, right
Right
there.
there.
Before we get started, when is the book launch?
It comes out September 23rd, but you could pre-launch it or you could pre-buy it at any point.
Good. Just want to make sure that I know that so everyone is clear that it's out on the 23rd, but you can buy it today.
Yes.
Also, yes, before it launches. And so let's start with the last conversation. Well, you and I had a conversation about Let Them recently, but then the last podcast we did was on your last book, The Desire Factor. So between the Desire Factor and now, how did we get to the Flow Factor?
Well, it's interesting because I had a college in Europe come to me and say, I would love to give you, as a dean, I'd love to give you a PhD in your public works. And I thought, wow, that's kind of cool. I didn't even know that was possible, right? But the one thing he said to me was, what haven't you said yet? And I had been from 2018 after I launched Quantum Success and even after that talking about energy mastery and launched a program called Quantum Energy Mastery, and so many people's lives were absolutely changed because they can really see themselves as an energy master. And also what I also would talk about is the drama triangle and, getting out of survival mode. And all of my books up to this point have all been about manifesting, right? And the universal laws. And they still have that, and it's still part of it. And it helps getting out of survival mode definitely helps with manifesting. But I thought, what else have I not said? What's the common thread that's between all seven of my books? Because this is my seventh book, and what needs to be said that I didn't say it. And so the flow factor was born. And then I decided I don't want to go get my PhD in public works. I'm just going to write another book. And so instead of it being a thesis, it's now a book.
Well, can't you still get it? Isn't it honorary? So doesn't it matter that you just submit it as a thesis?
I could, but yeah, I'd rather just, focus on my lane. That's when I went into like the first class and it was all about like framework and, editing and all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that doesn't feel good to me. It really doesn't. Like I would take so much of my time and energy just by formatting and, like grammatical and just the way that it has to be that I'm like, yeah, that's not my lane. So I'll write another book. And I did.
You did.
Yeah.
So what makes Flow Factor different than the Desire Factor?
Well, first of all, it's all about how do we get into flow? Desire Factor was all about the 7 steps at how energy sets up and then pops into a manifestation, right? But even before that happens, it's like, are we in flow or are we not? And a lot of times someone, when we're in alignment, that's flow. And so Desire Factor starts with the first step of alignment. And then once you're in alignment, what you focus, and there's all these different steps. So, what is flow and why are most people out of flow? How do they get out of flow and stay out of flow? And the biggest thing that I wanted to write about and really have people understand is that, what? It's not all about the successes in life. It's about the contrast because we as humans have experiences of contrast. Doesn't matter if we stub our toe or if we had some huge traumas in our life. None of us come out of this with no traumas, right? None of us come out of this where we're not going to have something go wrong or not the way we want it to. And that's where most people get stuck. I mean, JJ, I could just list out on my hand, so many different things that had the potential to have me stuck in what I don't want. And I'll just start from the last, several decades. One of them was my sister committed suicide. And that was a moment for me where I made a very deliberate choice and decision that I wasn't going to end up like her. So, what did I need to do to basically stay in flow of my divine and not go where she did? I've gone through a divorce with my first marriage. Again, another opportunity where I could have been just absolutely in resentment and, bitter and just angry. And I chose, no, I'm going to heal from this relationship. I'm going to heal from this breakup and I'm going to flow into what I do want. And now this month is 19 years that I've been with Frederick, right? Better relationship that I've ever had. We had 2 boys together. I mean, better than it was and could have been. My son, I mean, there had been debt. Oh my God, the amount of debt, investing in a business or, doing certain things. I mean, I could have just crumbled in that I never get what I want and why doesn't it work out for me? I mean, those are moments that I could have easily stayed stuck in that. One of the biggest ones for me was when Maxim, who's my youngest, who's turning 15 next month, when he was 2 months of age, he was rushed to the hospital and had to have open heart surgery. And yeah, it was a total shocker. I had a dream. It's crazy. I had a dream that morning that I went into his crib and he was dead. And then that morning, I brought him to the doctor because it happened to be their checkups because his older brother is 16 months older than him. Um, my son Alex got checked out, clean bill of health. He took one look at Maxim and said, go to the hospital. And we were, didn't know what was happening, the whole thing. It was a moment in time that I could have literally labeled the worst time of my life, but I didn't. Out of that, I got really close, even closer with my husband, got even closer with my other son. We birthed, the Enlightened Kid program while we were sitting there waiting while he was having surgery. And so, and on and on and on with other things. So life throws us things, right? We have stuff that happens, but it's how do you navigate out of the contrast and understand that many times contrast is the thing that starts the whole manifestation process. You don't know that you really want something until you're like so just depressed or down, or, it was in that moment. I never wanted great health for my sons, until that moment happened where there wasn't health and there was a possibility of losing him. That desire and that, I mean, just reserve and that passion for him to be well and to be healthy and for us to be as a family created such a deeper desire than I would have had if that didn't happen. So we have to look differently. It's a different perspective when things don't go wrong, things do go wrong or things don't go the way we think they should, right? And to understand that those are the moments when we're just so tired of being disappointed or we're so frustrated with the outcome or we're just like, oh my God, I can't take this anymore. Those are moments for us to hear ourselves, to process ourselves, and then really ask ourselves, what is it that I do want? And why do I want it? And how do I want to feel? And then understand that, like keys on the piano, those frequencies are available. I just had a client this morning I was working with, and she said, I really want to, in my career, I don't feel like I've ever really had what I wanted, and I've never really had a career that I love. And was saying to her, well, what's the emotion? Like, don't look at the form of what you want, because you've been kind of struggling, like, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I don't know what I want to do, right? What's the feeling? What's the state of being? And she was saying, I want freedom. And we came to also, she wants also stability. She wants both the freedom and the stability and the passion and the creativity and the purpose. Well, she's got to cultivate that as part of her entire system within herself. And then the form comes from there, because that's how I was all these years ago. I was a pharmaceutical rep, I was making great money. But as soon as I walked out the door and walked into a doctor's office, I was like my life force energy was just drained out of me. And I thought, what is missing? Because I knew about law of attraction. I was practicing it in every area of my life. And finally, I sat down with myself and said, what is it that I'm wanting to feel and flow in this part of my life? And it was passion and purpose. So every day I would meditate, I would feel my way into, I was driving in my car, I would imagine being passionate and on purpose with what I did as a career, as a creative self-expression. I'll tell you, I would not be doing this today if I had make that decision and cultivate that a long time ago, right? Because whatever we're feeling we're resisting or pushing up against, or whatever the contrast is, and then the emotions that come with it, that exists, but so does the polar opposite. And so that's like almost the first step in manifesting what you want. So the flow factor gets the beforehand. Once you're like, ooh, I know what I want, I have this desire, now these are the steps to create it. But this helps you get back into flow, out of that drama, out of the chaos, out of that struggle, and out of that survival mode, so that you can bring all of those parts that want to and need to be healed back into alignment, so that you can use all of your full force to create what it is you want.
You said something, and I didn't write it down, but it was basically the contrast might have been the reason why. Like the contrast births the answer to
Yes.
whatever you're desiring. And, just like with you, like with my marriage and then divorce, that all, because there was nothing I wanted more than for that to work out. And so I dedicated my entire life, blood, sweat, and tears, everything I did. I started my podcast to save my marriage. But I learned what I learned to apply to that situation. It wasn't going to save that situation, because that situation was a soul contract that wasn't supposed to be saved. It was supposed to be set up in order for me to learn and to motivate me, to focus me, right? Contrast focuses us, I think, in a
Yes.
way that it's important to us, because when you feel like, oh, I have everything that I want, I don't want anything else, we're being a little lazy with our focus. And we don't have to be lazy, but sometimes we get lazy because we take for granted some things that we have, and we don't always stay in a true state of appreciation. But what I was thinking about when you were talking about that contrast statement that you made back, did you ever join Clubhouse? Did you ever do Clubhouse?
For a minute. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I went in there early on, took the law of attraction like name, and then haven't really done too much since. I did hold like a bunch of different clubhouses, and I remember taking people through an exercise of rampage of appreciation. And I do it in three different ways. And one of the ways, I won't go through all the ways, but one of the ways that I teach people how to do rampage is sort of talking about like that, what you were talking about, like the contrast. It's bringing us back into the why.
Yeah.
Why did this contrast happen? What's it a bridge to? Why did I need this to happen? Because without this happening, this thing wouldn't have happened. And if this thing wouldn't happen, I wouldn't have that thing, right? It's like being able to track back when we can understand that the contrast has a purpose, and we don't
Yes.
get stuck in the it's wrong, it's bad, I screwed up, I must not be good enough, whatever belief system that we have going on. It's learning how to rampage, because people would say, look, I'm in a bad mood. I don't want to rampage. Okay, so rampage where you are. So I appreciate that I'm in a bad freaking mood. I'm in a bad mood because, then you talk about it, but you do it with the idea of linking, why did this happen? What possible reasons could this have happened to me? Maybe you don't know what the reason is yet, but maybe if you could open your mind up to say, well, maybe this is leading me somewhere else. This is leading me, I've written a few books. I'm writing another book right now, and I'm a person who could write a book every year, every couple, 6 months, no problem, because I have so much content. But every time I went to go do this book, my intuition said, nope, it's not time yet. It's been a huge practice in surrender to divine timing and inspiration, instead of overriding it with JJ efficient production, get it done energy, which is how I've been living forever. But this book situation for me too has been this, okay, no, listen, my body goes, no. I go, okay. Like I'm getting ready to do another kind of marketing thing. And every time I go to, I'm like, oh, I should do that, says my brain. And my body goes, nope. I'm like, damn it. All right, so I'm not ready yet. So to me, I see that as flow too. Like you get in alignment and you follow the impulse, the intuition leads you. And if you're, and I love that you put in the back of the book the exercises. The
Yeah.
exercises to sort of move people out of the survival states into a place of alignment and flow, depending on which kind of type they are and where they need the help. I thought that was really helpful and useful. Did you get that as a download from the council, or was that something that you've already doing?
Yes, that was a download of from the council, and all those processes are from the council. And the biggest thing from like one of the biggest nuggets from this book is how to get back in flow is self-compassion. Because I think we talked about that there was an influencer that was talking about, hey, when you're disappointed, just find the appreciation. And I'm like, dude, those are two totally different vibrations. Like if you're in the throes of I'm so disappointed in this. How come this isn't working out? I wanted this, but I got this instead. To go into appreciation, like, oh, I appreciate this and I appreciate that. It's such a huge leap that you need a bridge. And the compassion, self-compassion, is a bridge that, like you were saying, you can get to the rampage of appreciation, But when you're in that just place of despair, right? If you bring in compassion, self-compassion, like, okay, it's going to be fine, right? It's first the energy. Then I like to say, do something somatic, like give yourself a hug. And then, tell yourself words of affirmation. It's going to be okay if this or not, if not this, something better. I remember years ago, my mom and dad didn't want to live in their house anymore. And so I had this idea that let's sell their house and my house, create a house together. They could either be in like a casita or a guest house or something like that, right? And we found this house and it had been on the market for like 9 months, not one offer, right? So we're like, this could work, right? Let's make an offer. The minute we go to make an offer, my husband's sitting down with our realtor to craft the offer. Someone comes in with a cash offer, done, off the table. And I felt that level of disappointment because, like you, I'm very visual. I'm like, okay, Maxim's room will be here, Alex will be over here. They'll have a separate, room for themselves here. My office will be here. I was already living in that house, right? I started visualizing where is the furniture going to go. So I started already having this attachment to being in this house. And the minute it was like, boom, that's off the table. Anytime we have a future connection or a future projection and it's not available anymore, there's a sense of feeling lonely, whether it's the potential of, ooh, I'm dating this guy and now he's ghosted me. Now it's like this feeling of I'm alone or I'm lonely because that connection to that future thing energetically or visually that we've had, it's now gone. And I remember feeling the disappointment, but then I also gave myself that self-compassion. I said, you know what? This or something better. And literally that afternoon, the council was like, take a drive. And I'm like, okay, where are we going? Right? Just trust me. So turn here, turn left, and I'm like, I don't know where we are going. Ended up in this place in Scottsdale that I've never even knew about. It was this brand new development. And a lot of the places that I was looking for didn't have a casita or you couldn't build one, kind of thing. This place, sure, no problem. You could build a casita. So I just literally drafted out this plan of this house. I'm like, could you build it? Yeah, they can. So this or something better. Yet we can't get to the something better if we don't have that bridge to say, all right, I know this sucks. That didn't feel good. You're going to be okay. You're going to find something else. From that place, then you can go, you know what? Things always work out for me. It's going to be okay. All right. You know what? It is. It's not this one. It's going to be better. And then you can start flowing your energy to that.
It reminds me of when my very first book deal was like a dummy is an idiot series. It was called Knack. I mean, really, it was. I got hired. I'd sent a proposal to an agent. She said no to my proposal, but you'd be great to write this book. And I said, well, I don't want to write that book. I want to write the book I proposed to you. And she said, oh, well, it's a buyout. It'll be your first publication. You'll get paid, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, ugh. And I fought on it. But then I'm like, all right, it was money. It was a published book by a company that was in a major series, but it was so strangling me creatively because you had to do 1 to 4 words was the title of the 2 pages. It was a picture book. Had to be 4 pictures on the spread, 2 pictures per each page. It had to be 4 bullet points underneath each picture. It had to have 10 to 14 words for the anyway. It made me.
Oh
It
my
was
God.
such a nightmare to write. How many times can you write about abs? It's called Knack Absolute Abs. I'm like, really? How many more stories can I make about up crunches? And anyway, but the whole point is because I didn't want to write the book because I said this is not the best way to take this information and tell people how to correctly, anatomically, biomechanically execute physiologically how to execute an ab exercise. You can't figure that out on a book. So in
Yeah.
my mind, I went, okay, well, I'll make a DVD. I'll sell a DVD. And then I'm going to hire this person and I'm going to make this whole big thing. And I planned out this whole launch, which probably would have cost me anywhere between $5,000 and $10,000. That doesn't include creating the CD. And and I wouldn't have earned another penny if they sold 1 million copies because it was a buyout. And then I got a call from the company and they said, we have good news and bad news. I said, okay. The good news is we're keeping your book. I said, okay, I didn't realize that was an option. You've already been paying me, but okay, you're keeping my book. The bad news is we have to push it a few months. And I was like, oh. And the timing of this was around, the new year. And so I had this whole campaign in my mind as a trainer. I'm going to capitalize on the new year and the resolutions. So now I'm crushed. So back to, I'm crushed. And I get off the phone and I cry because I
See,
was
you
feeling,
processed your emotions by crying. Go ahead.
I cried because I felt defeated. I felt discouraged. I felt, I was frustrated. I was frustrated because I have no control over this. And then I thought, hold on. Like it didn't take me long. It was like within 2 hours. After I cried, after I released and allowed the energy to come out of my body, I didn't repress it. I didn't ignore it. I allowed it. I allowed the emotion to come out. I cried. And then I got the idea, well, really, is that what you want your first book in the world to be? Is an ab book? Like no. Do you really want to spend that kind of money promoting a book about the way that someone looks, which is really not what you're about anyway? And so I was like, oh my God, I can write a different book. And then I was inspired. So I got to the place of not only was I frustrated and sad and discouraged, I then became excited. And I wrote Fit to Love in 6 months and had it published before that book came out. So
Love
that
it.
my first work in the world could actually be my story versus a story I had to etch into this structure. So it is the self-compassion of processing your emotions and understanding what
Yes.
your needs are and knowing and believing. And I think that's probably the most important thing, whether you believe what Christy's saying or what I'm saying, because there are people who are going to say, yeah, I don't really believe that. Or maybe you think you believe that, but you don't actually believe that it's this or something better. If you just, Mary Morrissey, who wrote the intro for your book, or the forward for your book,
Love Mary.
said this once at Agape, should if you could just borrow someone's belief, maybe you don't believe it, just borrow somebody's belief. So just borrow the belief and put it on like a shirt, like a style that you've never worn before. Until you try it on and wear it for a little while, you're not going to know how you feel in it. So maybe borrow the belief that things are always working out for you and that there is this or something better, even if you can't see it yet. You made a comment about frequency, and there's something I've been telling people, and like in person, every frequency exists.
Yes.
Every version of your story exists. Which frequency are you on? Because
Yes.
there's the version of the story that is horrible for you, that something bad happens, and it is true. It is 100% true. And there's a version of that same story that's 100% true. That's the opposite. That's amazing and wonderful and life-changing for you. So rather than say, well, something's true or not true, it's all true. It just depends on what frequency you're hanging out in to realize the truth of that, right? Every version does exist. We get to
Totally.
choose through alignment and flow and focus and contrast that I'm going to be in the frequency of where what I want exists. And like you mentioned about the feeling someone's looking for, because we all know that's really the end goal. The goal is the feeling. Hold
Right.
the feeling, activate the feeling. It's what you want anyway. And then you'll be in alignment, you'll be in flow.
Exactly. So you just brought me back to being in the hospital with my son. And, my husband was like, okay, we were like, what do we do? And we informed our parents, and both our fathers were like, who's to blame and who didn't find this and what's going on? Because he was just a miracle, and without getting into too much. But I said, listen, listen to my husband. I'm like, we have to surround him only in positive energy, and nobody in the family is going to go see him, just you and I. And because you and I can hold the frequency of he's healthy, he's well, there's nothing wrong, right? It was like that's the energy we hold him in, and no other energy. And the answer is no if someone wants to go see him, because they're going to go, no, it's horrible. I don't want that energy around him. And we weren't, too popular at that point because people wanted to come and see him. But it was like, no, even Frederick's mom was like, he belongs to me. He's my grandson. I'll go see him. And we had to tell the nurse, nobody comes in except the two of us, because we held that energy of you are well. And we would tell him that you are so strong, you are well, you're so amazing. And we would constantly be telling this little baby that, even telepathically when I was not at the hospital with him. And we were focusing on our joint vision of him being back home and Christmas time having us together, and someday going to Disneyland together, and someday going camping together, which never happened because I'm not a camper, but someday, watching him play sports and, all that kind of stuff. And that's what we focused on. And that was the frequency of he's home, he's healthy, he's smart, he's awesome. And that's who that kid is now. He's intelligent, he's sarcastic as heck. I mean, I just love him. He's the star on his soccer team. He's up for Youth Athlete of the Year right now. This is the same 2-month-old baby that was so frail that, that wouldn't even have been something you would consider. And that energy of, oh no, he's gonna die, and the energy around him. There was a family that was behind us losing their child, and we had to keep that energy of you're well, you're good, miracles are happening, all of that. And so if I can do that in one of the hardest moments of my life and the most life threatening for my son, you could do that about a house, a business, money, a partner, whatever it is. It's just really we all have free will. Every single person has free will. And nobody has to give us permission other than ourselves to choose the frequency that we want to be in.
And you also don't need permission or validation from anyone else.
Correct.
So the procedure that I just had on Friday, as of the recording of this, is a procedure I had back in 2019. That was a lot more hairy. That one was, I was anemic. I had gone to this doctor and she basically said, I think you need her hysterectomy. And I was like, no. I walked in and I said, this is what I want. Will you do it or not? I don't need to see the scans. We don't need to talk about it. This is what I want. And she said, I'll do it, but that's not my first recommendation. And I said, what is? And she said, hysterectomy. And I thought I was in the twilight zone. I literally had done a show in 2015 that said hysterectomies are so overprescribed, it's ridiculous. And even if you have cancer, that's not the first go-to if you want to keep your optimal health for the rest of your life. So here we are 4 years later, I'm in the hospital and she's telling me, and I'm looking at her like literally she has 3 heads. And Doug is freaking out thinking I'm going to die. He leaves and he goes, oh my God, are you going to die? I said, I'm not going to die. But there was a knowing that I had going into that. This is what I want. This is what I'm here for. But we give our power away to other people, our families, doctors for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And, and then she sent me to the gynecologist because she said, okay, well, I'll do it, but you need to have someone who can do surgery in case something goes wrong. So I go to the gynecologist. She says the same thing. Oh, you scare me, she says. I said, okay, why? And then she explains to me why. I said, okay, well, you're giving me a 15% chance, which is only really a 5% chance, but because of my age, you're deciding to make it more. Okay, so a 15% chance of something going bad. Let's do the math. That is 85% of a good chance that it's going to go well. Let me tell you how this is going to go. And I couldn't have been more sure. I couldn't have been more deliberate in what I said was going to happen. And exactly what I said was going to happen happened. And then when I came back, she's like, oh, what do you want to do? You want acupuncture? Okay, I'll give you whatever you want. So you just keep doing whatever you're doing. But I literally had doctors bullying me up and down all over the place, telling me that I should be listening to them and not myself. And I kept thinking, why did I go through this? Oh, I went through this because in the future, I'm going to save a lot of uteruses because I'm going to be able to tell this story and have women stop asking permission to believe or feel. Because when you are in a frequency of knowing, and you know what knowing feels like, and then you make the decision to give your power away and disempower yourself by asking for someone else to validate that who's not in a frequency that you're in.
Bingo.
Yes. Which is why with you guys, I mean, that was epigenetics. You were programming the brain, his and yours, to see and feel and act in a situation that wasn't there yet. That's what athletes do. It's what The Secret talked about, right? It's epigenetics. And I knew when I'm sitting in that doctor's office that this is malpractice as far as I'm concerned, because literally 85% to 15%, and you want me to forget 85% and just focus on the 15% and be afraid. And then if I'm afraid, guess what's going to happen? All the bad things that you think are going to happen. But I'm not afraid. And I'm not going to do any things that you said that were going to happen that I'm going to do. I'm going to follow my intuition because I'm 100% clear. My body is telling me. So, but we do not trust ourselves. And what I love about the flow factor is all the exercises in the back to start to practice getting out of the monkey brain, monkey mind, and getting into the body and doing the somatic practices, because you have to learn how to trust yourself even when no one else around you does.
Yes. JJ, I had a similar situation. I was going through perimenopausal, perimenopause, and I had been gaining weight, and my emotions were like all over the place. And I'm like, what is going on? And I had this doctor, this feminine doctor, tell me, she's like, well, your emotions, you need to get this pellet. And I'm all about natural, 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 especially because I came from a pharmaceutical background and all that. For me, it's all about natural. So I agreed to have this pellet of hormones, put in. And I'm sitting there, she's already made the incision. And all of a sudden, I hear my body, my intuition say, stop. And I said, stop. And she goes, what do you mean, stop? I'm about to put it in. I've already made the incision. I said, stop, don't do it. And she goes, what? And she started getting mad at me. And I go, stop. My entire body, everything is telling me to stop. And she's like, I can't believe this. Now she's doing like a shame job. In all my years, and she's putting all of her stuff away, in all my years of being in medicine, I've never had this. And I'm like, well, I clearly got a just huge sign that this is not the procedure for me. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm totally shaming me for listening to myself, right? I swear to God, 2 days later, I had a podcast of the time called Quantum Success, and I was interviewing a woman, and she's talking about natural ways and herbs and different things. And I said, "What about perimenopause and menopause and all that?" And she goes, "Oh yeah, you could use that." And so I'm like, "We'll have to talk after." Literally, it was 2 days after I said, "No, this isn't for me." That I got on a regimen with her, and I was able to smooth out my hormones. I was able to, come back into a place where, because that's what I even told the doctor. I'm like, I've gained weight. She's like, oh, that happens. And I'm like, no, 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 no. Don't just tell people, don't just tell women, oh, it happens. You're just going to have to be satisfied with weight gain. No, I don't accept that as true for me. I don't accept that because I am this age. I can no longer look like this, feel like this,
Mm-hmm.
be like this. Absolutely not. This is my life. This is my body. This is my creation. And what do I want? It's like, what do I say that happens for me? Because we are the most powerful and we are the god or the goddess of our bodies. Our cells have little ears that listen to us and what we say. So we don't need to, if a doctor, someone else, anybody, it could be our moms or friends or whoever, is saying something to us and then we accept it as true, we're the ones communicating that to our bodies, to our manifestations, to our relationships. So we can, say, wow, I respect your opinion on that. However, I believe this. I don't have to agree with someone. I don't have to oppose them and then have them become my enemy, but I can say, huh, that's an interesting perspective. For me, this is the way I choose to look at it and treat it or do it or whatever.
If only that was met with, oh, okay, but it's not. It's met with shame. Like you were
Totally.
mentioning that you said stop after you started the procedure. 2 years before the first procedure that I did, I went to three different doctors and they all said surgery, surgery, surgery. And I finally, after the third one, started to schedule the surgery. Every time I cried hysterically. So I had that moment on the third time when I'm finally getting ready to schedule the surgery. I'm crying hysterically. And it was like, hello, Bueller. like, can you not see how out of alignment this is? You do not believe this on any level. If
Yeah,
you were in alignment with this, it would feel hopeful. It would feel like relief. It would feel good. It doesn't feel good. It feels the opposite of good. It feels horrible. You do not agree with this. Your body is screaming at you right now. No. Why aren't you listening? Because you're listening to other people who supposedly know more than you. And I'm not
yeah.
saying that they don't, they do, but they know different things, and they don't know me, nor are they in my body. And as I have found, most doctors, I had worked with someone recently who was the one who's on my show, 2015, and she said, wow, I've never known anyone who knew as much as you do about this situation or about this. I'm like, well, you started to educate me 10 years ago, but I make it a point to learn about what I'm doing so that I can resonate with what the right answer is for me. So
For you, that's the key
for
for
me,
you.
right, for
Yes,
me. And and I think that is where, like, for the flow factor, the idea of the flow factor is that it's my flow or it's your flow, whatever frequency you're on, whatever path you need to be taking, whatever guidance you're getting is going to feel a certain way. And the only person who can figure that out is you.
exactly. And the key to all this, like the Cliff Note version, flow feels good. So if you feel bad, you're out of flow. And it's not a collective flow, it's an individual aligned in the moment feeling of flow. It's not
Right.
a, one size fits all. It's individual, and it could be different. Your flow today could be different than it was 10 years ago, or maybe what it's going to be in 10 years. It adapts as we do, but the flow and the opportunity to be in that flow, meaning feeling good, is available to us all day, every day.
Right. And most of us don't know how to get there or sustain it when we do. And all the things that get in the way, you list in the book. So looking at all the beliefs that get in the way of being in flow.
Yes. And that's just my hope, is that, the people that have read it so far are like, oh my God, it's like, I can't not know this now. This has changed my life, because now that I know this, I can't go back. What I always say is, once you've birthed the baby, you can't put it back in, right? It's like the baby's out, like the awareness is there. And once you have it and you become not resistant to contrast, when you start to just, oh, it's part of, just like air, it's part of life. Okay, there's contrast. You no longer have an attachment to it. You're no longer in fight, flight, freeze, fawn with it. And then you can return into another option, which is flow. You can shift, whether it's your words, your thoughts, your perspective, your emotions, and your actions in a different place, so that maybe if you're out of flow, you can find the alignment first, so that you take a different action, you make a different decision, you take a different choice. But flow is always there and available to us.
And it's important that you get in it.
Because
So
it
that it
feels
can
so good.
it feels so good, and it's also, you're being guided. And what isn't it doesn't it feel better to know that your higher being and all non-physical energies are trying to guide you, and if you're not listening, you're just cut off. So you don't have to figure it all out. Let them guide you, but they can't guide you if you're not connected.
That's it. Our soul never feels bad. It never goes with us to feeling bad. The non-physical part of us is always remains in that flow. So since we have free will and choice, right, we could either keep going away from it or return back to it. And that's what my hope is that this book, with all the processes that we have in the appendix, that whether you're having mental, emotional, physical, whatever, spiritual, that you have processes, like exact day-to-day, step-to-step processes that you can do, no matter what the contrast is, no matter if it's extreme or if it's, stubbing your toe, whatever, someone didn't return a phone call, whatever it is, right? Something that's mild annoyance to like something extreme. One of the examples I use in the book is that, I live in Scottsdale and I have this beautiful view, and one of my neighbors, built a house next to us and put this gross, awful cactus in front of my view of my window. And I put that example in the book because, like, someone could look at it and go, "Oh my God, it's a cactus. You live in Arizona, right?" It's like, how could you get upset? We get upset far more, there's other things that upset us so much more than sometimes a cactus, right? It could be dishes in the sink. It could be a toilet seat being left up or down, or, there's so many things that we could get stressed about or knocked off from. And so I wrote that as an example of what happens in our brains and what happens in our processing of how do I get out of contrast and back into flow? Because there's very, very, very minor things that can set us off to very big things. And it's not about the things. It's like, Yoda said to Luke in Empire Strikes Back, right? It's like a rock or a spaceship, right? It's the same process. It's the same exact process to move a rock or the spaceship. So it's the same thing here to get back into flow. It's not about the stimulus. It's about our own individual, personal, empowered response.
Hmm.
And flow is always a choice.
So, would you have a preference as to where they go? If you want them to buy it on Amazon or on your website or on Barnes and Noble?
I do not. We have the flow factor, the flowfactorbook.com that lists all the different places, but you could order it from your local bookstore, wherever you get your books. I mean, I don't want to say, hey, everybody go here, everybody go there. It's your own, wherever you feel the flow is, right? Wherever you feel that you want to go. We also have it in audiobook. It'll be available when it comes out. That's the only thing that isn't available for pre-order. When it comes out, the audiobook will be there. But yeah, or you can go to ChristyWhitman.com. It's everywhere. Just Google it.
The Flow Factor, and you said theflowfactor.com?
TheFlowFactorBook.com.
Flowfactorbook.com or ChristyWhitman.com. The link will be in the show notes here. Make sure to get it ASAP so you can uncover what might be stopping your flow and quickly learn how to remove it so you can get back into flow so you can bring in all the things that you want.
Yeah.
Any other things you want to say before we close today's show?
No, yeah, I do. Thank you for having me on and thank you for what you do, JJ. And the thing is that again, flow is always there. It's not something we have to go create. It's not something we have to go buy. It's literally there for us. And sometimes we just have to know how to let go of what's out of the flow so we can return back to our natural state of flow.
Which is what we wish for all of you. So get the
Yes.
Flow Factor book today. And thank you again, Christy, for coming back on the show.
Thank you.